So in Japan, there is this new Trumpian far-right political party named Sanseito, and it's recently gaining a lot of momentum. The numbers are going up in the polls, and I thought I would want to make a video about this on this channel, about like why it's on the rise, how the party, what the party platforms are, things like that. But then I saw this video by TLDR. That's like they cover a lot of other countries' politics, how like what parties are on the rise, Japan, South Korea, anywhere from Japan, South Korea to Europe to anywhere else. And so please go check it out. It's TLDR News Global, I think. Yeah. And so I just like they did a really good summarization of how what Sanseito is and why they are on the rise. But I still have some things that I would like to add. So I just decided that I'm going to do a react to this video. So yeah, let's get started.
Towards the end of last month, Tokyo held
Oh, hold on,
municipal
this
elections.
is too fast. Yeah, normal.
Towards the end of last month, Tokyo held municipal elections. The post-election headlines mostly focused on the dismal performance of the governing LDP. But one of the other interesting results was the relative success of a smaller party, Sanseito, which is usually translated to do-it-yourself in English and is often described as far-right. Now, Sanseito only fielded candidates in 4 of Tokyo's 42 multi-member electoral districts, but 3 of those 4 candidates won seats, and one of them nearly came first, falling just 500 votes behind the LDP candidate. Sanseito are also ticking up in the national polls too, and the party is now looking to the upper house elections due for July 20th. So in this video, we're going to take a look at Sanseito's rise and whether it can continue. Sanseito was founded in 2020 by Sohei Kamiya, who's still the leader today and is very much the face of the party. Before Sanseito, Kamiya had a brief but unstoried career in politics. In 2007, he was elected to the City Council of Suita, a suburb of Osaka, before running unsuccessfully as a candidate for the ruling LDP, then led by Shinzo Abe, at the 2012 national elections. After losing his race, Kamita took a break from mainstream politics and started a YouTube channel called Channel Grand Strategy, which currently has about 500,000 subscribers. The channel's website says that Kamiya established the channel because, quote, school education is not conveying truly important information to the people because we lost the war, and most of his videos cover what we might describe as alt-right takes on Japanese politics and history. There's a lot of historical revisionism in there, essentially defending Imperial Japan and criticizing Japan's neighbors, especially China and South Korea. There's also quite a lot of pushing back against LGBT legislation, globalization, and immigration. Anyway, when the pandemic hit in March 2020, Kamiya set up Sanseito. Sanseito essentially began as an anti-lockdown party, arguing against mandatory mask wearing and vaccinations, and this was basically their platform for the 2022 election for Japan's upper house. These elections used a mixed electoral system, with 75 seats elected at the constituency level and a further 50 seats elected via a party list system across the whole country. Now, Sanseito didn't win any constituency seats, but they won 3.5% of the party list vote, enough for 1 seat, which went to Kamiya. Once the pandemic subsided, most commentators expected Sanseito to fall off, not least because niche parties have a habit of appearing and disappearing very quickly in Japan, especially on the right, because their leadership are often assumed by the LDP. However, that didn't happen, and Sanseito successfully pivoted to a form of nationalist or far-right politics. Unsurprisingly, there's a fair bit of ideological overlap between Sanseito's politics and Kamiya's YouTube channel, and Kamiya also likes to draw parallels with Trump's America First doctrine. For instance, Sanseito focuses a lot on immigration. They want to make it harder for foreigners to buy land in Japan, deny foreigners voting rights, and reduce the flow of foreign workers, on the grounds that foreigners apparently commit more crime and take welfare away from Japanese families. This is in large part a reaction to recent...
Okay, so I would like to add this xenophobic rhetoric. It's been like Sanseito has been doing this, like spreading these xenophobic rhetoric ideas, xenophobic ideas for a long time since it started. They started their party, and Kamiya has been like he's been ideologically far right since his start of his political career in 2007 when, as you just heard, he was elected to the city council. But he's been like ramping up. They've been ramping up this rhetoric like very aggressively in the recent weeks or month, I should say, in their platform. Like they're in. So there's a upper house election coming up in Japan. The voting day is July 20th, I think, and their like Sanseito like main slogan is Japanese first, and like the xenophobic rhetoric is like very getting very prominent in the Japanese like internet, especially on the Japanese internet. And like that's because this isn't like just unique to Japan. Anywhere around the world, from the United States to Germany to UK, like with the failure of these establishment politics and people's like frustration grow against the establishment politics, like the politicians try to direct their anger at the outside or the people that are like not origin to their country, right? Like so basically immigrants, they try to direct their anger at immigrants. And especially in Japan, like the corruption of LDP has led a lot of conservative voters to like lose trust in LDP. And plus Shinzo Abe passed away, and Shinzo Abe was like treated like, it's just basically like a Trump, a Japanese version of Trump in a lot of ways, in that like Trump is worshipped by the conservatives in the United States. Um, like he's a god or something. MAGA cult worship him just like that. Like the right in Japan, generally speaking, they worship Shinzo Abe, and with his passing, they lost confidence in LDP. And yeah, so that's like the background to this. Basically, all I'm saying is that Sanseito has been ramping up this xenophobic rhetoric very hard in recent days. So yeah.
Take welfare away from Japanese families. This is in large part a reaction to recent reforms to Japan's immigration system, which have loosened work visa requirements to reduce labour shortages and offset Japan's demographic crisis. Although we should, of course, say that Japan still has one of the most restrictive immigration systems and the lowest immigration rates in the developed world.
Right. So like this isn't, I guess, relevant to Sanseito that much, although I guess it is. Like so Shinzo Abe, he portrays as this like very right wing politician. He like engaged in a lot of right wing rhetoric, and that's how he like gained a lot of popularity within the right in Japan. Like he goes after like these liberal media a lot, and he's like aggressive towards like opposition politicians, especially like female opposition politicians, like liberal politicians. And like that kind of riled up the support from the right. But in actuality, if you look at his policies, he was like he's still right wing and he's still revisionist, but at the same time he has to like balance. um he couldn't just say do everything that the right wanted. He didn't do everything that the right wanted. For example, as they just stated, like Japan has been um like accepting a little bit more immigrant workers to Japan. And there are like if you go to some convenience store in Japan or something, like the chances are a lot of the people that are working in these kind of places, they're like from China, Vietnam, like these Asian countries that are like the people from these kinds of like east to southeastern countries that are not Japan. They a lot of them um support the Japanese society by working in these environments, and like these people are working in such a very like lower wages than the average Japanese workers. So like basically the thing the problem with the LDP's immigration policy is that like so the right attacks them because like they just you know most of them don't want like any immigration or like very limited immigration, and they think that LDP is LDP led the way in accepting them too much. But at the same time, like the real criticism, like the real true correct criticism is that Japan LDP's government accepts immigrant, which in itself is necessary. Like Japan is aging, like Japanese society is one of the most aging societies in the world, and if you don't accept immigrants in, then like we're just gonna collapse as a society. Um, so like that in itself isn't bad. The problem is the work environment and human rights of these foreign workers are not guaranteed like at all, and they work in such a poor environment, and the LDP, Komeito, these ruling parties are not seriously doing anything to improve their environment. So that's the problem, right? But yeah, but Shinzo Abe, like the right in Japan, most of them criticize this immigration policies by LDP, but they like try to like frame it in a way that doesn't directly attack Shinzo Abe. Most of them, at least, like some neo Nazis and these fucking far right, like very very right portion of the Japanese politics, like they criticize Shinzo Abe, but most of the right doesn't. Just like in the United States, the Trump regime recently attacked Iran, and this clearly goes against the doctrine of America first. But most of MAGA just like try to find ways to like um not criticize Trump and just try to say like, oh, Trump doesn't want war, but at the same time very far right like Nick Fuentes and these neo-Nazis, they criticize Trump. So same dynamic exists in Japan. So yeah, just wanted to add that.
Also want to rewrite the education syllabus to make it more patriotic, and amend Japan's constitution, written by the US after World War II, to allow Japan to have a standing army and its own nuclear weapons. With their social policies, Sanseito opposed same sex marriage and the LGBT Understanding Promotion Act, a 2023 law that obligates the Japanese government to protect LGBT people from, quote, unfair discrimination. Economically, Sanseito are explicitly protectionist, arguing that the government needs to protect Japanese businesses from, quote, foreign capital. And Kamiya has previously expressed tentative support for Abenomics, Shinzo Abe's program of loose monetary and fiscal policy combined with lower taxes and deregulation. Now, combined, this pivot works remarkably well. The party had performed well at recent elections and risen in national polls from about 2% at the start of the year to 5% last month, with the most recent polling this weekend putting them at an astonishing 8%. Now, this might not sound like much,
Oh,
but
okay.
they're
So
rising from
sorry.
about 2% at the start of the year to
Yeah.
5.
So in terms of this rise of Sanseito, so last year in 2024, October of 2024, there was a lower house election in Japan, and so the lot of the right conservatives that were like strongly supporting Shinzo Abe when he was the prime minister, they became so as you know, Shinzo Abe was assassinated in 2022, and after that, they kind of like lost faith in the Liberal Democratic Party because so back then in 2022, Fumio Kishida was the prime minister, and he was like kind of seen as this a little bit like liberal leaning, like center right kind of politician, not like right not as conservative as Shinzo Abe, and he had some like liberal tendencies, although in practice he didn't like the policies that Shinzo Abe enacted and Kishida enacted. They didn't like they are not that different. It's just that Shinzo Abe put an effort to try to portray himself as this like strong far right. Well, he never said he's a far right, but strong like conservative politician that stands up to these evil liberals and South Korean people that are not like doing not being truthful in telling the great history of Japan or whatever. But Kishida didn't do that. He didn't try to portray himself as that way. So that's when like conservatives started losing faith in LDP. And then in 2023, as the video that just mentioned, there was this legislation that claims to support LGBT rights. But in practice, it was like a milk toast fucking like bill that didn't really do much. Just it was just basically platitudes that didn't do anything to actually protect like the human rights of the sexual minorities. So like the liberals and leftists like myself in Japan were critical of that bill from that perspective. But at the same time, the far right in Japan, like they obviously just like the right wingers in any country, they don't want to admit like any human rights for LGBTQ plus people. So like even this bill that didn't really do anything, just full of platitudes and nothing to actually protect human rights of these people. Like they were dissatisfied with that too. And some of the politicians in LDP, like only I think three, four, maybe five politicians didn't vote for the bill. Like they didn't even vote against it because like in Japan or in LDP, they like have to follow these rule. If the party decides to vote in favor of something, then you have to be in compliance with that, like I'm talking about the lawmakers, or else you're gonna get punished. That's how they work. So they didn't even vote against it. And a lot of the conservatives in Japan said, okay, LDP is like not really anti-LGBTQ plus people enough. So and that's when the right started to yeah, that's when like the people really started to lose faith in LDP. And so in the last election, 2024 election, the party called DPFP, Democratic Party for the People, that's like this orange, this line is the DPFP's line in this graph. But so they surged, as you can see, like in 20, well, okay, I guess this is like post 2024. So but like they were surging, and like as you can see, they were even surging after 2024 towards the beginning of this year, because like so this DPFP party is led by the politician named Yuichiro Tamaki. He was originally like a liberal, like kind of center right-ish politician, but centrist is I guess the right word. And he was critical of Shinzo Abe back when he was a prime minister, but recently he's been like making this weird pivot toward the right, because the right, he saw this like as an opportunity to gain traction with the right, I guess. And that did like succeed to some extent. I actually made a video about this politician Yuichiro Tamaki it was in the other channel, but please go check it out. But anyways, so they laid out this strong economic populist messaging, like we have to grow the Japanese economy by like reducing the taxes towards the working people, and we're gonna make Japan strong, economically strong. Like these economic messaging resonated with a lot of people, especially young people, and especially with the conservative voters that were disillusioned with LDP. So they were on the rise, as you can see. But recently, DPFP like announced that they're going to run politician by the name of Shiori Yamao is gonna be on the ballot in this election in July. And she was kind of this liberal leaning politician that was like very critical of Shinzo Abe. Um, and she had like this problem issue regarding her affairs in the past, and like the um the person that she had an affair with, that person's wife had committed she had unalived themselves because of these like issues. And like she was basically a controversial figure that was not at all popular with the right. That was like kind of the base, DPFP's base, because DPFP had, as I said, gained a lot of traction within the right. So things like that. And also there was this, the Japanese conservatives are very strongly opposed to allowing couples, or yeah, couples to have the different surnames, like, so basically like dual surname system. Basically, like, Japanese conservatives think that you have like wife and the husband has to have the same surname, or else the families will crumble. And it is very important, as a Japanese conservative that values Japanese traditions, you have to force every single couple to have the same surname. But as I said, Tamaki was originally a kind of a liberal leaning politician, and DPFP was in favor of um, the dual surname system, like selective dual surname system. Obviously, people can, like, if both the wife and the husband, or yeah, wants to have the same surname, like they can have that. But it's just selective. So like the conservative argument is nonsensical, like fascist, authoritarian, totalitarian nonsense. But anyways, DPFP was in favor of the dual surname system. So these kind of things led the conservatives to lose faith in DPFP as well, because they thought that they are not like really conservative as well. And then when they look for the alternative again, Sanseito is like looked like a real conservative, because like Sohei Kamiya, who's the leader of the Sanseito, he's been like far right. He's not just doing it for momentum, although I'm sure like he is to some extent, but he has been, basically he is like a real far right politician that has been like saying basically the same thing for a long time. So yeah, like, and with their messaging, like xenophobic messaging and things like that, they're growing. And like Sanseito is very dangerous, even opposed compared to like LDP, DPFP. As I said, LDP wasn't like Shinzo, even when the Shinzo Abe was in charge of the country, and he was a prime minister. He didn't really, like, he did do really a lot of harm to the Japanese society. He was very um he led he led the way to just militarize Japan. And he was very yeah, like he did do a lot of harm. He was very pro nuclear power plant, and he was very authoritarian, and like things like that. But not as far as like Sanseito wants them to be. Like even when Shinzo Abe was prime minister, he didn't like cut all benefits to the poor immigrants in Japan. Like, and but like Sanseito clearly claims that they want to end all like benefits to the poor foreigners in Japan. Like that's just one example. But so basically, the gist of what I'm trying to say is like Sanseito is much more dangerous than even like LDP or even DPFP, who's like grifting to the right, who try to grift to the right, but they kind of failed and they're falling off the cliff right now. See, like DPFP's fall is like kind of similar to Sanseito's rise, right? So you can see that conservatives move from Shinzo Abe's LDP to DPFP's DPFP, and then now to Sanseito. And Sanseito is definitely the most dangerous of these three. And I hope they don't get that much momentum. But yeah, I think I spoke for a long time, so I'll just let the video go.
5% last month, with the most recent polling this weekend putting them at an astonishing 8%. Now, this might not sound like much, but they're rising fast and are now probably the largest opposition party to the right of the LDP. So, what explains Sanseito's relative success? Well, it obviously fits some of the wider international trends, including the rise of the far right across the world and the widening ideological divide between young men and young women, with young men making up a disproportionate fraction of Sanseito's voter base. But there are also some more specific reasons as well. For starters, Shinzo Abe's withdrawal from frontline politics, having served as Prime Minister and President of the LDP from 2006 to 2007, and again from 2012 to 2020, created an electoral void at the right of the LDP, and Sanseito has successfully exploited this. After all, Abe was pretty right wing, especially on cultural issues, and his successors, first Fumio Kishida and now Shigeru Ishiba, hail from the centre left of the
Right.
LDP,
So they're
creating a
successful.
vacuum on the right. In a survey conducted in mid June, 60% of Sanseito voters said that they strongly or somewhat approved of Abe's second stint as Prime Minister, more than those from any other opposition party. Sanseito is also very online. It uses YouTube and other social media platforms to get its message out, essentially bypassing mainstream media, and members participate in the party's legislative process through an online platform, which also grants them access to an online group chat for their region, a 10-minute daily news podcast, and access to a program of training events which open the path to becoming a community organizer within the party. Not only does this create a network of highly engaged volunteers, it's also proved remarkably lucrative, allowing Sanseito to charge far more for membership than other parties. Sanseito charges 1,000 yen, or about £5 a month for ordinary members, and 4,000 yen for its higher tier, known as managing members. For context, membership to the Constitutional Democratic Party, Japan's largest opposition party, costs just 1,000 yen per year. Estimates put Sanseito's current membership at around 100,000 people, which implies an
See,
annual
oh yeah.
revenue of
So
about
this is the
1.2.
thing, like, so a lot of like in terms of the populism, especially the right wing populism around the world, anywhere from the United States, Germany, UK, and anywhere else, like they're framed as this like poor white working class people, like disillusioned with the establishment politics that are like the strong support base of these things, right? And that is true, I'm sure. Like the reason why Trump won um in 2016 and in 2024 is because the Democrats, Trump successfully won over a lot of the um like the worker blue collar um workers in like Pennsylvania, Michigan, these so-called Rust Belt states. So that's true. But in terms of like these Japanese populism, like if you look at where Sanseito and these right-wing populism, DPFP, and these populist parties gain a lot of votes, it's relatively in like the wealthier part of Japan, right? Like and Shinzo Abe too. When Shinzo Abe was in charge of um was the prime minister, where LDP took a lot of votes is kind of like wealthier part of Japan, and like poor people don't even like have any um like they just don't go to vote. Like the voter turnout in Japan is very low, and these right wingers in Japan are generally like wealthy, and they're just evil. Like there's no leeway. Like I'm not saying that like voting for Trump is justified if you're poor or anything. Like I don't think like voting for fascist is like a excusable thing in any context, but like if you're like wealthy and you have resources to think through things and you're still like voting for these fucking far right bigot parties, like I just like they're just evil, right? Like it's just racism, right? Like as I said, Sanseito is ramping up this Japanese first campaign in this election. That's their slogan that they use, and it's just like they try to fear monger against the um like the foreigners that are coming to Japan, like they commit too much crimes or whatever the fuck they're saying. That's just not true. Like a lot of Japanese men are like the most like largest demographic that commits crimes in Japan, I'm sure. But anyways, like they just fearmonger. They're just evil. There's no like excuse that you can tell them. As you can see, like they charge so much. And yeah, just I just wanted basically I just want to say that Japanese right wingers that are like doing these and anti-establishment shticks people that support them are just not even like poor people that are just angry at everything. It's just the wealthy, evil people that are just xenophobic and moronic, and yeah,
NATO's current membership at around 100,000 people, which implies an annual revenue of about 1.2 billion yen, or £6 million,
it's
far
insane.
more than any other minor party. Whether Sanseito's momentum can continue remains to be seen, but there are at least two things going in their favour: their solid party finances and widespread voter apathy in Japan, as evidenced by weak turnout in recent elections. So, if Sanseito can turn out non voters, as far right parties have in other countries, they could truly be in the money. All of this plays into a broader feeling of chaos in the world at the moment. Whether it's wars, economics, or geopolitics, it feels like things are increasingly uncertain. And who's at the middle of all of that? Well, the United States. At one time, the US seemed to be a steady, stabilizing force in global politics, but it seems that those days are over, with American influence, popularity, and dominance on the decline. So, in the next issue of our magazine, Too Long, we're
Okay, yeah.
discussing this.
So yeah, like it's really shady, dark times that are like it seems that if a political party like Sanseito gains prominence in Japanese politics, like you don't even have to think to like know what it's gonna be like because you can like Kamiya himself, Sanseito themselves, they worship Trump and like they publicly say that they are like the Trumpian party. Their engagement in recent xenophobic rhetoric targets like these illegal aliens that just like Trump, and like there are a lot of undocumented immigrants in Japan as well. Like if you see what's happening in the United States today, it's that these like innocent undocumented immigrants that haven't even committed any crimes, like some of them, a lot of them actually have been in the United States since they were a child, and their parents or their families were undocumented immigrants as well, and they are like treated as criminals, and they're just put into these detention centers by ICE thugs, um and things like that. And if Sanseito were to be in charge of Japan, we can easily see that happening. Like the rhetoric that Trump employs is like very similar to Sanseito's in Japan. So